Okay, I think we're recording. Yeah, good. Okay, so hey, welcome back to bioethics. This is going to be really short. I just want to do some housekeeping stuff and then give you a prompt for your journal readings. The readings that you had to do for this week are on privacy largely, and that's what I want you to be journaling on. I don't think that um, I'm going to I have a lot to say about privacy as a value beyond what was said in the texts. So I just want to give you some guidance on how to continue thinking through that in your own journaling. So first, housekeeping things. Um, Everybody should have by now signed up for one and only one presentation slot on the supplemental presentation sign up sheet. Now, if you have, you still need to go back and make sure that you're still signed up because some of you have made the mistake of accidentally like clearing out an entire column or cell's worth of people who've signed up for something, and then um, you've gone in and like just put your name in there for the thing that you wanted, and then other people have been deleted. I've had at least 4 people email me and tell me that their names have disappeared off the sheet, and I can look and see like who has done the editing on the sheet in most cases. But I'm not mad at you if you've made this mistake. But in the future, you should know that you can undo this mistake by just pressing Control Z or Command Z if you're on an Apple computer. You can also just go up to File, and then it'll have an undo link or undo button that you can hit, and you can if you've accidentally cleared out a whole cell or something. So please take a moment and like undo your mistake if you do make that mistake, because it's going to cause anguish and frustration for a lot of other people. Um, so yeah, go and make sure that you are still signed up. If somebody else has signed up for your slot, if you've been erased and somebody else has signed up, let me know, but put yourself also in that slot. Like if they're signed up for number 3, add another number 3 into that cell and put your name by it, and I'll know then that I have multiple people presenting on that, and we'll just deal with it. But from here out, if you make that mistake, or let me know, but do the Control Z thing or the File undo thing, and everything should be okay. Okay, as for journals, so everybody should have feedback on their journals by now, and for this round of feedback, I only wrote comments on your first journal entry or your first like substantive one. If you did like a quick entry for the first introduction lecture or whatever, I didn't bother with that one, but I put comments on I think everybody's first journal entry. So go and check that out and make sure that that's there. If I didn't put any comments, it means I didn't see your journal entries somehow. And if you'll just email me and let me know that, I'll go back and look at it and make sure they're there. So however many lectures we have is how many journal entries you should have, which is about 2 a week. So I'm only doing feedback on the first round. It's just because that cut the number of entries that I had to read and write feedback to from about 200 to about 70, which is just, I just didn't have time to do all of them at once. I will do feedback on subsequent entries, not every one of them, but you will continue to get feedback. And almost all of you are like on the right track, and those of you who weren't quite getting the exercise, you have comments now helping you point you in the right direction. But just keep doing what you're doing unless I've like wrote some big correction on what you're doing. On the last journal entry, it was on informed consent. And I asked you 3 questions, or I gave you 3 scenarios and asked you, in those scenarios each, did you think that the person was expressing informed consent? And I should have been more clear about this, but I was hoping that you would answer not just yes or no, but like tell me why you think that they were expressing informed consent or not. And the way you explain the why there should be in terms of those 5 conditions that together make up informed consent. Remember, we said that informed consent involved 5 conditions. All 5 of them had to be met. And if they were, informed consent was there. And if any one of them was missing, there wasn't informed consent. Something was missing. So if you said no in any of those cases, you need to explain exactly which of those conditions hadn't been met in that case. Was the person not adequately informed of the nature of the procedure? Was the person not competent to express consent, etc.? So if you didn't do that in your journal entry, go back and add that in. Just add an extra paragraph explaining that. Otherwise, it's not really like the full entry, right? You haven't really explained the whole thing. So, last thing on the sheet, on my to-do list for today, is the prompt for your journal. So the last readings that you were doing for today are on privacy, and it's really excellent reading, especially the part by James Rachels, which is in there. Pause for a second. Some of you have emailed me asking, like, oh, can you send me the James Rachels piece for the reading today? And anytime there's a page number behind the piece, behind the title of the thing I want you to read, anytime there's a page number, it's going to be in the textbook. So all the chapters you've noticed are interspersed with like articles or pieces of articles that are like, extra readings. So the James Rachels piece and almost all of the readings that you have are actually in that textbook somewhere, and it'll have the page number on it. So you do need to do that reading. That was like an important part of the assignment. And it deals heavily with the question of privacy and why privacy is valuable to us. Not just personally why privacy is valuable to us, but why violating somebody's privacy might be morally wrong, which obviously has a lot of implications in the medical fields. When you're giving somebody medical care, you are privy to a just vast amount of information about them that they might want to keep private. And now that we're dealing with like a big data centered regime of medical care, there's even more concerns over privacy, or more legitimate concerns over privacy, because so much information about you or any person who's getting medical care is being sucked up by so many different players. For instance, Google has tons of medical data on people simply because it's been posted somewhere on some website that has been indexed by Google, and Google has sophisticated enough algorithms to pull that and recognize that what we have here is a medical record that's been inappropriately made public, but Google still has it and Google can act on it, which means they can sell that information to other people, or they can just make it publicly available to other people who might want to act on it. And so you might not be worried about that, right? Because a lot of people respond to concerns about privacy by saying, well, I don't have anything to hide, right? So I don't care. Well, I assume that most of you would say, I don't have anything to hide. Like, you probably haven't killed anybody and gotten away with it or whatever. But that doesn't mean that you don't have any legitimate reason to want to have privacy in your life. And the same thing applies to medical information, right? You might not have any facts about your medical condition or history that you're ashamed of, that you want to hide from anybody, but you might still legitimately not want people looking into that, or not want certain people to have access to it. I'm sure most of you feel that way, and the rest of you who don't feel that way, there's going to be some small amount of people who's like, I don't give a damn, like, sure, look at my medical records, I don't care, you'll see my blood type or something. But you might want to think more on it, because even if a piece of information about you isn't explicitly stated in your medical file, you might be able to infer lots of things about a person from their medical information. And then if that information were made available to absolutely everybody, you could have people making decisions about you based on medical information that might not be totally relevant to you, right? They might be able to infer, for instance, your sexuality from your medical data, even if it's not explicitly stated. And do you want just anybody making a decision about you based on that information? Probably not. But I want to ask the prompt that I want you to consider, and this prompt will tell me how you respond to it, will definitely change if you've done the reading. And I really do want you to do the reading, because James Rachels is like a super smart person. He's a really good writer. He's a really clear thinker. And on this particular issue of privacy, he has, I think, the most competent and clear-headed, like, explanation for why privacy is valuable to everybody and why violating it is a morally serious thing. So the prompt for this is, I want you to tell me why you think, first I want you to tell me whether you think privacy is something that you have a moral right to, specifically privacy about your medical information, why you think it is something or is something that you have a moral right to, right? Do you have a right to keep things secret from other people and have control over who sees it, or do you not have that right? And I want you to tell me, once you tell me yes or no on that, I want you to tell me why you think it's valuable to have privacy, or why it isn't a big deal if you don't have privacy. In the caveat on that is, I want you to explain why you want or care about privacy, even if you don't have anything to hide. So focus on that by saying, look, I don't have anything to hide, but I still want privacy because blank, or I still think that I have a right to privacy because blank. And that I don't have anything to hide caveat, what it means is, like, even if your information doesn't embarrass you, or even if it doesn't contain things that might legitimately make people not want to be involved with you, or might legitimately make people want to not give you opportunities. For instance, like if your medical information stated that you caught HPV while you were, murdering a person and their blood got on you or whatever. Like, you might legitimately then not want people to know that information because it involves the fact that you were murdering someone. That's pretty legitimate. Interest in having that kept private, because people might not want to give you a job if they could find out that you had murdered somebody. But let's imagine, even if you don't have anything that might legitimately make somebody want to pass you up or not give you equal treatment or whatever it is, even if there's nothing in there damaging, why would you still care then? Why would privacy still be valuable to you? Or why could privacy still be valuable to you or someone else? That's the focus of this journal entry. So do that entry. I'm going to come back later once we're all done, and that's the one I'll give some feedback on. And you'll be good for this first half of the week. The next set of readings, I just had this up and I've totally blanked on what it is. The next set of readings is, let's see, privacy. Whether it's ever okay to lie to patients, and the related question of why confidentiality is important. Confidentiality is a sort of other side of the coin of privacy. But the question in the next readings is going to be whether it's ever okay to lie to a person about their medical situation or their own medical information. So we're moving from the question of whether other people should have access to your medical information to the question of whether you always should have access your own medical information, or whether a caretaker might be entitled or even required to lie to you. So we'll deal with that question more in depth when I put out the next lecture. But for right now, work on this journal entry prompt and make sure that you're signed up for one presentation. If you've been taken out, make sure you put your name back in. And if you didn't explain why you thought in your last journal entry those people did or did not express informed consent, if you didn't give a why explanation, go back in there and write that in for me, and then you'll be good. So thanks for watching. I will put out another video at the end of this week, and I hope you stay safe and happy until then. Bye.